Who's hosting?
We didn't. Hello and welcome to the Booksplosion Book of the Month for the month of
This month.
March. We read Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare.
Cassandra Clare.
The third and final book in the Last Hours trilogy.
Or Struggle Bus, right?
We are struggle busting along, and we read every book in this trilogy. So we have live shows for all the other ones, which is Chain of Gold.
Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron.
I get them all mixed up because they all sound so similar. This is actually our last book of the month live show, but we will be doing live shows throughout the year, wrapping up Booksplosion. This is our 10th year, so we're celebrating, and we're going to be going on a nostalgia trip and talking about all sorts of Booksplosion things. So that will start April 30th.
Yeah, I mean this month. It's already April.
It is April. Oh my gosh. So yeah. Am I missing anything?
I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think you hit everything.
Want to explain this trilogy? I mean, I feel like if people hear it, they probably know, but
yeah, y'all probably know this trilogy, but it takes place after the Infernal Devices. So the children of our lead characters from the Infernal Devices are the leads in Chain of Thorns, and the lead characters from the Infernal Devices are their parents, and they're very present, and I love them so fucking much. So if you haven't read it yet, it's a fun ride. It does have another cover underneath the cover, which is cool. And we're going to be discussing this with spoilers today. There's not, we'll do a quick, like, non-spoilery feelings right now. Kat, you want to open us up?
But we can't talk about much without spoilers because
it's really hard.
In a trilogy that is a sequel trilogy to another trilogy. I enjoyed this. The first half, I didn't love. It was kind of, I had to push myself to get through it. Because in this book we have like 10 or 11 point of view characters. So the entire beginning we're kind of dealing with fallout from the cliffhanger we had in the last book. So we're kind of wrapping up plot points that started at the very end of the last book, and we're also like recapping on all of our dozen main characters. So it was a little bit slow going in the beginning. But once we got to like the midpoint and especially the final act, I was like really into it and really enjoying it. And I do love these characters. So even though it felt like, you know, that we were going through a lot of just like setup and some more frustrating moments. This trilogy has plenty of frustrating moments.
Yes.
But, you know, I do still love the characters in the world. So I still really enjoyed this book overall. It's just not my fave of Cassie's books, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the overarching agreement here within the fandom. It's not our favorite Cassie finale or favorite Cassie book, but these characters, like, this is a great cast. So where the plot is annoying me, I still am like having fun because I really love the characters so much. And I'm rooting for them really, really hard.
Like I was trying to think, like I was like that we have so many point of view characters, like who would I want to get rid of to cut that down? But I can't choose any of them. I'm like, no, we need them all, even the ones that have more minor role. I'm like, we can't get rid of them either. Sorry, can't do.
Yeah, I feel like maybe expanding on the world of like Belial and the Princes of Hell maybe would have kind of fleshed out.
As far as villains go, I wasn't a fan of our villains in this book. Like, from Tatiana to Belial, like even Lilith, like I didn't care that much about them. I was in it for our cast of characters, not for the antagonists.
It was almost like we didn't really understand their threat level that much.
And also they weren't very scary. They weren't like, they were just kind of there.
It was like you couldn't really grasp what Belial wanted or could do or would do, you know?
Like what was his threat?
Yeah.
It was kind of diminished by some of the scenes where we saw him, where it was almost played more comedic and scary. And then like Tatiana was just like unhinged and not in a fun way. Like, so yeah, villain wise, not a win for me.
It was no Sebastian Valentine's, like
Yeah.
for like
They weren't
charm.
super compelling villains.
Right.
Jesse, what were your thoughts?
So I feel bad because I didn't like love this book as much as I was hoping to, and like I already went into it with like kind of feeling ugh, because I wasn't a huge fan of the first two books personally. And like so for me, I have always felt like a disconnect with the characters, but this book like actually made me like love them a lot more, because I felt like there was a lot of good development in here. And I felt like that's something that I was missing. For some reason, I just felt like such a disconnect with the characters in the first two. But like that's something that I really loved about this book, is I felt like I grew a stronger like connection to them and like this stronger emotion for them. So I felt more for them throughout the book. There were just some things that happened that we'll talk about that really upset me, and I just was really underwhelmed by the overall plot. But again, it's like one of those situations with Cassie Clare, where like, even if you're not enjoying the plot of the book itself, like you're still enjoying the book because of the characters. Like the characters are just entertaining and like carrying the book on their backs essentially. So
exactly.
I think my main complaint is that I just felt like a lot of things were kind of rushed and weren't fleshed out enough. So that's where I will, leave it at that. But
I mean, I also see that, and there was really only one thing in this book that surprised me. Like everything else was kind of more or less what I expected going in, or something that I called relatively early on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just tweeting about this.
Also, guys, we will be taking your questions. So if you want to submit questions in the comments, we always
think of them. Yes.
It helps the discussion move forward.
I have a question. Jesse, did you know you look like Jesse?
Oh yeah, I do.
Jesse Blackthorn.
Jesse Blackthorn.
There's illustrations.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing that I liked about this book, was the illustrations. I forgot about.
Jesse, you really
illustrations are so good.
Maybe I should do a cosplay.
You don't need to do anything to cosplay.
Old-fashioned clothes.
Yeah.
Look at this kiss. Like there's some really great art of the big romantic scenes.
Wait, one of the things that we can say that's like non-spoilery is like, who was your favorite character to follow?
You know?
Or like parent. Well, I guess it's kind of pairing. But.
I loved following Thomas in this book. He was so fun, and I would laugh out loud every time we were in his head.
Yeah, I gotta say, Thomas and Alistair really did it for me in this book.
They really carried it. A lot of the warm, great moments were Thomas Alistair moments.
That's true.
And they had almost more communication than most of the other ships.
They did have more communication than the other ships.
That's something that I'll rant about in a moment. But like, I wanted to love Cordelia and James a lot. But the communication issues prevented me from them being a fave. I liked Lucy and Jesse. They had communication. They didn't really have any secrets or like frustrating misunderstandings going on.
But I didn't love. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even Anna and Ari, their sort of miscommunication, the thing that like Ari was hiding, it was so minor that I was okay with it. I was like, we're gonna solve that, and it's not even a big deal. I do wish that they talked it out a little bit more rather than just like the really brief conversation in the middle of battle.
I feel like we should just move into spoilers, because it's like going to stunt the discussion. Okay. So anyone who hasn't read the book yet, you should probably leave. But I don't know why you would even be here. Like, it's too risky. But ta-ta, come back when you've read it. This will be on our channel.
Bye.
Spoiler time.
With Lucy and Jesse, I just did not like when they kissed.
I knew that was going to be your
darkness, because it felt like a big stretch, because it didn't really have a payoff, you know? Like,
it was also just frustrating because she like did so much to get him back, and then come on, like, don't give her another option.
Like, there's already so much drama with all the other relationships. I feel like you could have just let them be. Like
Yeah.
I just feel like a lot of that Lucy's power stuff we didn't get to really delve into as much as I wanted to understand what was going on because Cassie had so much other stuff to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as that goes, I feel like we're sort of missing some kind of explanation, or like there's a disconnect with why her powers are suddenly gone because Belial died. Like, how does that work? Because
Don't even get me started on this.
like her and James only had them while Belial was still alive, but then like how does that apply to other warlocks? Or is it only because they're like
doesn't make
warlock?
any sense.
Okay. So it
It's
wasn't for me.
like I was talking about this in my book talk and I like cut it down, but it doesn't make any sense because Tessa still has her power. It's in her fucking DNA because she's born from him. And so are her kids. So it doesn't make any sense that the powers would go away. When Malcolm said that like maybe it'll come back, I have a feeling it does. It doesn't really make sense that it would disappear. You know? Like I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't even know why it would fade and then come back later. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
either.
maybe because Belial is like especially weak in the moment, so the power is weakened, but it still doesn't make much sense.
Belial at the end. So like
I don't know. I know. That's what I was like. I'm trying to understand it, but I don't get
Are we
it.
just never gonna see that though? Like if that does happen, like will it just be like a short story if it comes back?
Well, I think she set it up for more books. She really did. She left it open. This was like not a finale.
But do you think there's gonna be more books and like with these characters? Do you think?
She could come back to it in like 20 years if she wanted to. You know, she's taking a break, I think. I think she left it open. So if she wanted to write in this time period, there's a lot open.
Wait, when are we getting Wicked Powers? Is that like that was pushed? Is that what
It's pushed on hold a little bit. It's after the Sword Catcher comes out. She's taken a little bit of a break. And you could tell she needed one. She's been on deadline for 10 years. Like but I don't think she's like wants to close the door on Shadowhunters completely after the Wicked Powers. I think she left the door open for herself and it's right here.
Yeah, I mean I see that, but without the sort of plan or guarantee for another series, it feels too open-ended in my opinion. Like what was it? Queen of Shadows had a bit of an open ending because like we're obviously
but it felt more closed too.
But that's I was okay with that because I was like, she's already announced that she's planning another trilogy with these characters. So like I was okay with that little bit of openness. But with this one, we don't have that guarantee. We don't have anything there. Because of the stupid family tree, we don't even know who exists and like who would our characters be. I'm so mad about the family tree.
I brought up that family tree over and over and over again in my like 52-minute video. I was like, I can't let this go. I can't.
I am because mad. Like to me, it feels like she wrote that family tree, and then she realized that she kind of like wrote herself into corners in some places, and so the sort of comedic thing of like Esme Hardcastle being like writing this like wacky family tree was kind of a way to retcon that and like cancel it. But I've spent so much time on that family tree. It just makes me upset.
I think we all have. And it's like we are too invested in it to like cancel it. So I wish it was like less comedic and more like whoever wrote it was hiding different relationships and stuff.
Yeah. It's just I'm so frustrated because it's like it feels so like I can't trust anything on it now because like it doesn't have Cordelia's actual mother. It has like some random woman who is Cordelia's mother, and the Carstairs line is continued through Alistair, when in reality it's probably continued through their little brother Zachary.
John? I thought it was John.
No, Zachary. I think it's John in the family tree that comes from Alistair, but in the book, it's the little brother Zachary.
I know that family tree so well, and I'm so annoyed.
And then where do our Lightwoods come from?
Well, we don't have a guarantee, and a lot of people are speculating. It's just like, I need the family tree guarantee. I just need it. So if I need a new one.
And also, like, these are all the English people, so like we have a whole American branch of Blackthorns. Like, are those our Blackthorns?
Well, we don't know, because it could be the descendants of the random guy who went to America.
Yeah, or it could be Jesse.
I know.
Jesse and Lucy.
I feel like it is Jesse, just because of how the necromancy line really.
Yeah, I see that. But then why do we make specific mention of this random American Blackthorn who had like 4 kids or something? So like we already have so many fucking Blackthorns. Like, do we really need
more?
Yeah, it's very open, and it's like we got no answers that we really wanted in terms of like closure on the family tree.
Yeah.
Which is upsetting, because I was really hoping to get like a detailed Blackthorn backstory. And it's kind of just muddied it up more, because we had assumed certain things that made it feel like solid. Yeah. And then this made it like even muddier.
I mean, it's not even that long ago. It's not like ancient, lost in history kind of thing. Like, this was 100 years ago, less than 100, I believe, from where Dark Artifices happens. So like,
Cassie needs a break. I'm gonna like cutting her some slack, because she's like so overrun. And then maybe when she comes back after like taking some time away from the world, she could like give us some more answers in whatever she writes next.
Right.
Yeah.
Screaming, crying, throwing up, says the Blackthorns are like rabbits. How did they have so many kids?
The little bunny Blackthorns.
They just keep spitting them out. All right. So what were your favorite scenes? Like, what stands out as like the top moments for you?
I get character names mixed up, so I'm sorry, but Thomas coming out to Matthew?
I love everything with Thomas, yeah. And everything with Matthew.
Matthew said about like accepting love, like how he deserved love or something. And I just like, I don't know, it stuck out to me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so emotional. It's so beautiful. So
I loved everything with Thomas and Alistair. One of the funniest moments in the book, in my opinion, is the fire message.
That was the funniest part of the book. It was hilarious.
Yes.
I loved that, and I just loved their whole relationship. One moment that I liked was when Cordelia killed Tatiana. At first, we were doing the whole thing where she's like, I don't want to kill it. Like, I don't want to become a murderer. And I mean, maybe I'm a little bit evil, but I'm just like, kill her. Like, she needs to die. She's caused so much trouble. And like, if someone had just killed her the last time they had an opportunity, none of this would be happening, because like, she's obviously never going to stop. Like, she has to die, or else she's just going to keep trying to ruin Blackthorns and Herondales and Lightwoods.
Yeah. And that was like another moment where, I don't know, there were plants that didn't really carry through for me. Like when Lilith comes out, Lilith doesn't really pan out. Like nothing really happens with Lilith. But she gives her this sword that she makes out of ice, and it disappears right after she uses it. And I was just like, what was that about? You just disappear. I thought the sword was going to be like addictive or something. I don't know. Like, and just
I was waiting for something with more risk or consequence.
Yeah,
like,
just more weight.
Yeah, Cordelia spends so much time, especially in the beginning, like, I can never wield a weapon again because of
Yeah.
Lilith. But then, like, she gets out of the Lilith bargain relatively easy by just saying, like, Belial will die by my weapon, and then you'll release me from the paladin bond. And then
Yeah.
that's exactly
Okay.
what
This is something that really got on my nerves because, like, there were a million ideas on how to get rid of the paladin bond that they brought up in the library, the boys, and we didn't try any of them. And I was just
Yeah,
like, I don't understand why. Like, the best one was to try to summon Wayland the Smith and pledge allegiance to him. Never even did it, never even attempted. I was like, that's a prime idea. I don't
Really?
understand why the fuck we wouldn't try it. And then after she uses the sword to kill Tatiana and she still doesn't get her sword, I was just so annoyed. Like, it, I you now know that you can heal anything that you kill, so get your sword. This is not doing any good. Not having it.
especially when the enemy is Belial and all of his minions,
And
and
it's the only way you can kill them.
and like Lilith is all team kill Belial, so like even if you're wielding it in her name, it's not really so bad when he's the villain we're trying to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a fly. Yeah, it was frustrating. Like, there were, like, again, so many character moments that kept me, like, in it throughout it, but a lot of, like, the more intricate plot stuff that I feel like Cassie's usually really on top of,
Yeah.
didn't come together in the way that you would want it to.
Yeah, like I said in at the beginning, the non-spoilery thing, the only thing that surprised me in this book was Christopher's death.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of felt very like we're clearly moving in this direction, no big surprise twists or anything. Except for Christopher dying, which I didn't see coming, and which was like, oh shit, like one of our the merry thieves died, like holy crap.
You know, the way she was writing it during the battle, like, made my brain, like, flick on, like, wait, why are we paying attention to this? Like, that it's not gonna, like, be deadly, right? And then when it was, like, confirmed, like, when he was just, like, on the ground, I forget. I feel like, did we see it before? We see it before Cordelia does, I feel like. Because Cordelia, how is she shown it? Someone, like, she, like, sees a memory or something, or
Lilith shows her somehow.
yeah, and I was, like, in hysterics, like, I couldn't believe they killed
I
Christopher.
I didn't believe it until like his body was like being taken through the portal after the whole like fallout of Belial like walking down the city. I was like, he's not actually dead though. Like Lucy can do something. Like someone can do something.
Oh, I was like, "He's dead." She needed to kill someone.
So why Christopher when Grace was right there?
Because we were doing a Grace redemption arc.
And, like normally, I hate the kind of trope where like a villain does a redemption arc and then immediately dies at the end after they find redemption. But like, I would have been okay with it in this situation.
I mean, I was very okay with it with Sebastian, like the most okay I've ever been. I was like, if he doesn't die, I'm going to rage. But yeah, I see what we're doing with Grace. She's had like such a terrible life and been so brainwashed her entire life. So
Yeah.
I understand why we're giving her another chance. It was just so tragic because Christopher was like a beautiful soul. He was so sweet. Yeah, Victoria saying even before TLH started, everything pointed to Matthew dying. And I mean, we still don't know if Matthew continues to live a long life. I feel like there's really like an adult trilogy or an adult like one-off of Matthew and his adventures. Like, I want to know.
It definitely be something. He's only like what 18 in
Yeah.
the book, so like I see why he was the one favored to die though, because he was the one that was like not in a ship, aside from like a love triangle that obviously wasn't going to result in him being the one with Cordelia.
Yeah, I'm really glad that he got himself together and he's doing well and everything. I just want to see, like, we want to see these characters like know that they find happiness and like a foundation for like long-term happiness. And I feel like he's still on like a roller coaster probably because yeah, he's sober, but like it's a struggle to stay sober, especially when you're away from everything you know. I feel like
Yeah, that was my concern is like, yeah, I'm happy for him to go on like a tour wandering the world, but like he's leaving behind his support system
yeah,
and he'll be traveling in places where surely there's alcohol.
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
that just seems like a recipe for badness.
Yeah, especially like going by himself without like someone who knows him, like or a
Yeah.
Parvati with him. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Like again, I feel like we need closure there to like feel like Matthew is done, like his story is done, you know.
Yeah.
Gabby says Matthew has to come to our timeline and marry me. Yeah, and then we were also set up with who had twins? Matthew's parents, right? So Charlotte and Henry. So now like their descendants could make Clary, or like we don't know where Clary comes from either. Like there was almost like this assumption that hopefully like Matthew is a descendant of Clary. But now that's just like all up in the air even more again. It was like she wanted to make it so there could not be any family tree drawing.
I still want to know how we go from like England to America. Like we have the English Carstairs, but then we have like Emma in Los Angeles. Did they come from the English Institute?
Probably.
Or are they American?
Well, they're American now. They came over.
Yeah, but like at what point?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
did they?
we don't know.
We're supposed to know, Christine. You know everything.
I feel like
wait, is this just the movie where Clary's mother has an English accent, or is that in the book?
It's just the movie. She does not have one in the book that we hear. They gave her like a weird, like a Lena Headey accent.
Because like if it was in the book too, I could start making connections. Like
it's not. Yeah, they don't mention that in the book. So I was surprised when she had a British accent.
It would make sense though if she's descended from Matthew.
If she is, but there's no confirmation at all anywhere, I don't think. Like I feel like she's
probably not going to be descended from Charles.
I feel like Emma has talked about.
There's the two new twins that could be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Emma has talked about how like one of the vampires is like descendant is a Fairchild or something. Like
I vaguely remember that from the Magnus.
Yeah, from TDA. The one that sends the poison pizzas or something. Nightshade.
Is Nightshade Matthew?
Does
Matthew get turned into a vampire?
That would be really interesting and I would love it. And then we would see him pop up. But
wait, I need to go find descriptions of Nightshade now.
I don't think we ever see him. I think he just like they reference that he sends them pizza or they own a pizza.
There's at least a couple scenes where he's there. There's one where isn't there a scene where like Julian almost kills him?
I don't think he almost kills Nightshade. I don't think we ever see them. I don't know.
I think Nightshade is Matthew. That's my new crackpot theory.
I like it. I'm on board with it. I hope it's real. Because it would be really fun to have Matthew in our like the wicked powers or something.
I don't know why he's trying to poison the Blackthorns, but maybe there's some kind of.
He was trying to poison Malcolm. Okay, this trilogy is really ruined if you've read TDA already. I mean, TDA is ruined if you read this first.
Yeah.
Which kind of upsets me because TDA is so good, that first book, and especially the first and second book. And this really spoils that for you. If Natasha read this first and then went and read Lady Midnight, and she like was like, oh, well, this is going to happen.
Wow. It really lends to the argument of reading in publication order.
Right.
You have to, or everything's not the same.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, screaming, crying, throwing up. What's your name? They said, wasn't he putting like drugs in the pizza so people are addicted to it and keep buying it? I think that's what it was. It was like an addictive drug. So like you wanted more craving.
Well, I hope that's not Matthew then, because he had his own struggles with addiction. So that
I
was
know.
very
Buddy played really dirty. But all right, so let's move to like your favorite James and Cordelia moment. Like how I was it was really hard to get to.
I really have a favorite James and Cordelia moment.
It was really hard.
Something that upsets me a lot is my favorite moment is when they finally got together, but it's tainted, in my opinion, by the fact that they did not actually communicate. Like Cordelia
Grace did it for them.
Grace, which is so frustrating because, like, I understand James's hesitance to confess about what happened with the bracelet and how he was under like a love spell, essentially.
I didn't.
I can understand that from more of a like it's almost like sexual assault, kind of like it's definitely non-consensual.
Yeah, but he's like
his
person.
But him feeling kind of shame about that, and
I understand that. Yeah.
Not wanting to relive it every time he talks about it. So like I understand that angle, but his whole thing about where he's like, I can't tell her because she'll pity me and stay with me anyways.
That
is so frustrating because it just shows a complete lack of respect and trust for Cordelia, of her being able to like make up her own mind and be honest about her own feelings and if he could say like, I don't want you to be with me out of pity, like if you don't really love me, I don't want to do this, but I love you, and like make that confession. But it's a total lack of respect in her having all the information to make a decision. And he never told her. Like it had to come from Grace. And it like I even understand him not doing it in that first moment where he comes to Paris because he finds her and Matthew making out. But like he had multiple opportunities after that. And it's like, if you want to have an honest relationship, you have to respect your partner enough to be able to tell them something like that.
Yeah, it was infuriating. Yeah, the pity thing was just like making my insides burn with rage. I was just like, you just have to tell her or she'll never know. You can't pretend you don't love her and then just be like, I love you now and expect her to understand what the fuck you mean by that. Like
it from her perspective, it feels like she left, he wants what he can't have, kind of thing. Which I think like Matthew or someone points out, like it comes off as like you want what you can't have. Like you wanted Grace when you were married to Cordelia, and now you want Cordelia now that she's absconded to Paris. And it's just they never had a real conversation about that. They just, as soon as Cordelia found out that Grace had him under a spell, she like goes to him and they confess their feelings and then they have sex. And it's like, but they need to their foundation of their relationship is already so shaky because of everything that's happened. Like you need to have that talk before you can move forward. And like James never got to the point where he like trusted Cordelia enough to and respected her enough to like be honest. And it was just so infuriating.
Yep. Yeah, when I saw that Grace was going to be telling Cordelia, I was like, oh, thank fucking God. Like we've gone so long. But at the same time, it was so annoying that had to be the way that it happened. Like I mean, I really loved Grace and Christopher, and I really wish we got to kind of see that pan out more than
I don't. I would have been so pissed if they got together.
Not get together maybe like long term, but like just the hope that they would both.
According to the family tree.
That's what the family tree said, and that is what I demand.
That's what had me like really upset and uncomfortable. Also, like, even though it didn't go that far physically, like it's akin to rape what Grace was doing to him. And so that scene where James finally confesses to his friends and then Christopher is there defending her, it just made me feel so uncomfortable and so icky because it felt like he was defending James's rapist to him. And it was just like so uncomfortable and so infuriating. Yeah. And I get that aspect of like, let's not let our hatred consume us and become like Tatiana, but that doesn't mean we have to accept her into our friend group and like be on good terms with her personally after what she did. Like I understand her childhood sucked and like she was kind of brainwashed and pressured into it all, but that doesn't change the fact that she was like doing this to James for years.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, what like then you do have to consider that she was a child and she did not know how bad what she was doing was because that's all she's ever been told her whole life. So it's like I can see where Christopher's coming from in that aspect. Like she was just Tatiana's puppet. She had no other outside sources to show her how wrong what she was doing was. Like she would never think that it was akin to like rape because she doesn't have anything to base off of anything except what Tatiana tells her. She's been completely cut off. So I feel for her in that way where she's like just realizing. I feel like it's all like crashing down on her how bad it was because she knew it wasn't good, but she didn't know that it was so terrible.
But
like,
even at the end of the second book, she runs to James and she's like, she tries to seduce him again and is like, let's run away with me. Let's run away together. And she doesn't know that her thrall, the bracelet is broken. And she still is like trying to get him to like do what she commands. And like, it's too, and then this book takes place over like a month, within a couple weeks of that happening. So it's too quick for her to have any kind of growth from that when she's still relying on that.
Yeah, I mean, like I know I hated her with a burning passion, but it like I can see where like she is still so young and was so malleable and like she was like feeling so hopeless that she could do anything else. Like you could see where you could get stuck in like a really terrible mindset and do shit like that. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's a really like nuanced, tough.
Yeah, but I also wonder how opinions would differ if the genders were flipped. Like if it was a guy doing this to a girl.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be different for sure. I think we'd be all even more upset, but
it shouldn't be like
I mean, that's the thing. It's like with Sebastian, I mean, I don't know how old he was. I think he was a little older. But like he was like innately evil and he was like hitting on Clary and like it was really creepy and weird. Like but like people still wanted him to be redeemed. People loved him.
But that's like a villain lover element, whereas Grace doesn't have that.
Well, she is a villain. We just don't love her because she's a girl.
That's another element.
That's exactly it. We're like, she's even worse because she's a girl. So it's like it's all there. It's all nuanced and
double standards for everyone.
Double standards everywhere. All right. So the end. There's a lot of just like I feel like this was the most anticlimactic end battle scene. How did y'all feel about it?
Meh.
It was a good battle scene, but not trilogy finale good.
Yeah.
It was more of
it was like first.
Yeah. I did like the what happened to London, like the takeover there, and like all the mundanes and even the downworlders were like under a weird like thrall where they were just like going through the motions. Like that was very creepy. And all the Watchers, the Silent Brothers and Iron Sisters, who were like their bodies were taken over. It was very creepy. But again, I feel like some of the scariness and like the horror that we could feel from that was taken away from Belial's sort of like nonchalant attitude of like, I'm gonna be king for like no real reason.
Belial was an idiot at the end. It was just like, okay, he's really stupid.
Not like what he was doing to London was terrifying, but he himself was not scary when he's like visiting James and Matthew in prison, bantering with his demon bird, which was like funny, but like
that part took me out because it was very Percy Jackson. So it was like, and like we expect that from Percy because it's all kind of light like that. But with Cassie, we do go pretty dark. So it was like the tone went up and down.
Yeah.
So I agree. There's a lot of stuff also that like, I don't know, the tornado of people that had died that came to visit them while they were briefly in Edom was like confusing. I still don't understand that girl who died, not Nico D'Angelo. Her name Philomena D'Angelo. Yeah, she still had no point, and I still didn't understand why she was like blaming Cordelia for her death.
You know what also felt very Percy Jackson was that random demon they encountered who was like, tell me a secret to pass.
It did. That felt so Percy Jackson. That whole scene, that's like around the same time that we had the bird. Like everything in Edom was like Percy Jackson world. Because Belial there was so dumb too. He was just like one of the Percy Jackson gods.
And the tone was so weird, especially with everything in London being so horrifying, and Christopher just died. And now we're in Edom and we're like having this romp with all these like comedic relief godly types. And there's a disconnect.
Yeah, it was. And then like when you go to Matthew, he's like dying. And it's a very different tone. Yeah, it was unfortunate. And like I was so confused about Belial just leaving the portal open to get right back to where he was. It was so like I couldn't get over the fact that he's like, your little friends are gonna be stuck there and die. And it's like, you left the door open. Like I just don't understand how you could think that they were not gonna just walk right through it. Like the portal was open to where he was. Exactly. But then, okay, did you think anyone else was gonna die? Because for a second, I thought that Ari and Arya, oh my god, Anna were going to die, and I was really scared. But then I was like, they can't die. But like they were set up in a situation where they wouldn't be able to escape.
I just didn't feel like anybody else was going to die because we already had like a major death. So I was like, oh, okay, that's probably the one death that we're going to get, honestly.
But it was the last book.
I know.
I didn't think they were going to die either. I thought there was a chance that Grace might die, which I was kind of rooting for. I was like, kill her. But I didn't think anyone else was going to die. Especially in a sort of like a meta way. I also didn't think Cassie was going to kill off any of her queer couples. Like
in my head I had that too. I was like, she can't kill them. They're like, we need their happy ending. But yeah, I also like I really want to know where their line goes. Like I want to see their happy ending. Like and this is the thing. Cassie always gives us everyone's happy ending. She does like a million endings so that we see every character get their happy ending. And then in this book, we didn't get it at all. No one got their guarantee. So it's like it makes you feel so up in the air.
This wasn't a finale. It makes it feel like there's one more book in this series.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that we took out.
There is one more book though. Like, why couldn't she just announce it at least?
Well, I don't think there is going to be because we took out all the villains. So like,
I know. Well, this someone in the chat I saw asked like why do we have a new Belial come in? And it's because she's doing something with the Princess of Hell in the Wicked Powers. Like
Yeah.
it's been building for a while. But we don't have a really big understanding of the Princes of Hell and their abilities and like their realms. Like she's been bringing in the realms. Like we've been hearing a lot about these different realms. We went to one in Queen of Air and Darkness for a significant portion of time. Like something is going to happen with all of that in
and
the
I think
Wicked Powers.
it's like there's how many Princes of Hell, 7 or 9 or whatever.
I think 9 Princes of Hell. Yeah,
I think that because they can't actually like die completely. It's like that Belial died, but then like another demon gets to take his place because there always has to be like the 9 Princes of Hell or 7, however many there are.
yeah, like someone got promoted.
In that Magnus book, at the end of it, there's a sort of a tease of something to come in the future. I don't know if it's Wicked Powers or something.
Yeah, it's Wicked Powers, I think.
But Wicked Powers has that whole plot with the fairies as well.
Well, I forget why I was so sure it was Wicked Powers because it's been so long since I read any of them. But like there was something in there that like was connecting to something. But Magnus is like, we've been getting to know Magnus's dad, who's a Prince of Hell as well. Like we've got then Lilith. Is she a Prince of Hell? I don't know. She's the mother of all demons.
Yeah.
But she feels like a name that's probably going to be involved too, So she's been building to the Avengers of villains.
Right.
And I just feel like we haven't seen enough of it to really understand their like motives,
I wonder if that's going to be a Wicked Powers thing or if that's the 3rd book in the Magnus trilogy. Because I feel like the 3rd book comes after Wicked Powers.
Yeah,
maybe
I don't know.
Wicked Powers will have more build up and more of that, but like it won't be the main enemy. Because I think there's that fairy child.
Well, you mean that fairy child? He's a grown up now. He's a teenager.
I don't remember. I have no memory of this.
His name is Slash. What is his name? Damn it. But he's gonna be part of a love triangle, I'm fairly certain, with Drew and Jamie.
Wow.
Ash. Oh my god, I said Slash. I was so close.
So many names.
But yeah, they were setting up for a love triangle, and was like very excited because it's very unconventional to have Ash come into the love triangle, and like Drew is really into horror and like dark shit, so she could be into that. And then Jamie's gonna be like an older love interest. He's like 2 years older than her, and like it makes a significant difference when she's 13, but like, or maybe he's 3 years older. Maybe he was 16, she was 13, but now she's going to be like 16, 17, and he's going to be like closer in age, and there's going to be that going on. And we have Ty like going to the Sholomance school, and Alec, who has to rebuild the whole of the Shadowhunter government in New York City.
I don't remember any of this.
Alec is the new
You're
fucking
spoiling. You're spoiling.
Yeah.
Jesse.
I haven't finished Queen of Air and Darkness.
You know this. We talked about this last month.
Oh my god, I completely forgot. Jesse, why didn't you stop me sooner?
Checked out. It's fine. It's fine.
And also, you won't remember.
I only heard like one thing, and I was like, "Oh, I know where she's going." So you're good. It's okay. It's okay. I only heard like one thing, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." Okay.
All right. Well, basically, everything's coming back to New York, so it's gonna be like kind of feeling like I feel like the City of Bones feel again. Like everyone's gonna be in the Big Apple.
Big Apple.
Which is cool. Like everyone's gonna be centralized in the same space because that's where Clary and Jace are. That's where our characters
And that's where
from
we started, so it's like a full
it's gonna where it's gonna end.
Full
Yeah.
circle.
I know. I love the full circleness of it. I think she's gonna knock that out of the park. I'm glad she's taking a break before she does it. Ashley, I was mortified and I still am. Does anyone have any questions you want us to tackle before we wrap up the live show today? Thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah.
It's been nice to have you all in the chat. For our last book discussion. Next month we are going to be talking about like the origins of Booksplosion in our first year together and memories and such.
Yeah.
Did I say next week? Next month.
I think you said
Technically this month, but
Okay. Bridget. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about Bridget for a second because this is so fucking random. What Cassie has this random Bridget character. And like, so Bridget shows up in TDA, and I was like, what the actual fuck is the cook from the Infernal Devices doing here? And like, she just never died, and she just sings these random ballads that are really dark. And it's like explained in here that she got struck by the angel lightning and now is randomly immortal. And she
what was that lightning about?
what?
What was the lightning about? Like, how did
It
that?
was like when God was coming down, like the main angel, whoever like the head angel is, like the father.
Daddy.
Yeah, Daddy came down and he was like, "Bitch, you being naughty," and like murdered Belial. And in that moment, he like sent out a bunch of lightning, and one of those strikes hit Bridget.
And then she became weirdly immortal.
Weirdly immortal.
Yeah.
There was also a whole thing where they're like, Bridget, like, why aren't you under the thrall? And she's just like, nobody can tell me what to do. So like there was something going on with her even before that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bridget's so weird. And so random. And she's just kind of feeling like an inside joke that Cassie has with herself. But yeah, so the blackthorn sword gets thrown to her and it shatters with the lightning, I believe, if I am remembering correctly. And then the blackthorn sword is back. It's back in black, back in TDA. So I guess there's a new blackthorn sword. Somebody mends it. I don't know. Waylon the Smith crops up and he's like, "Hey, you need a new sword? You summon me to break a paladin bond?"
You know, that was one, back to what you were talking about before about how, like, we should have summoned Waylon the Smith and, like, she could have pledged to be his paladin. I feel like the whole paladin thing is really underutilized since
I know.
he's only Lilith's paladin and they only, like, brainstorm, like, how to break it briefly and do none of those things. And, like, the paladin bond is such an interesting thing. Like, when we get those little bits of, like, history about it, about how, like, Shadowhunters and it was a thing of the past. But, like, we could explore that in such a cool way, and it was just so disappointingly done with her being Lilith's paladin and not really go. Like, it was a very flat kind of arc because, like, she's just so afraid of being Lilith's paladin the whole time, but then she gets out of it fairly easily at the end.
Yeah, I kind of wish that she did some stuff by act like she didn't want to do, you know? Like that.
She could have tried some of those things, like being nice in the name of Lilith to, like, piss her off.
I wanted her to do that so bad. I was like, yeah, that's an easy thing to give a go. Like, just give it a go. So very just like all over the place in terms of like all these little things that didn't come together. It was like the paladin bond was too big of a deal to deal with, so we didn't deal with it, you know?
It's just like we spent an entire trilogy exploring the Parabati bond, so like why not explore the paladin bond here?
Yeah.
Something different to explore.
Yeah, Cassie just had so many main characters she needed to wrap up. So it was like it made it so that she couldn't really concentrate on these things that we brought in that were really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like the
Like,
book is already 800 pages long.
yeah, yeah. So it was just like too big of a like she'd have to write another book at the same time, like Game of Thrones.
Or we could have had her, or we could have had Cordelia and James sort their shit out much sooner to get that out of the way, and then they could have dealt with some of this other external plot stuff.
We could have wrapped it up in Chain of Iron. That would have been ideal.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Like every couple doesn't have to wait until the very end to get together and work out their shit, especially when you're dealing with like what 5 different couples. Like you have the ability to give one of them their like happy ending earlier on. Like the closest to that was Jesse and Lucy, and they still had the whole thing where they couldn't touch, which I didn't mind that part. I know Christine, you hated it, but like I didn't mind that drama as far as like they're still together and they get to be together, and it's a little pushing daisies where like they can't be totally physically together, but you know, that's a problem that they can solve together. They're still happy.
With the Paladin bond, like if they had gotten together or at least started to get together at the end of Chain of Iron, like they could have tried to work through that together while Lilith was using her to accomplish tasks that she did not want to do. You know, like if that was actively hurting her, then it would have had so much more impact on the story and like felt so much more used, like they were using that arc that they set up that was like a big shock at the end. It was a huge twist at the end of the second book. So
and
like
you still would have had plenty of interpersonal drama with like, even if James had confessed right away in Paris about like what happened with the bracelet, they still have time where it's like Cordelia needs to process this and like sort out her feelings because she was in Paris like trying to get over him, and then together they have to figure out like how to tell Matthew and like deal with the drama of him, and they don't want to hurt him, and again her relationship with Lucy is very strained. Like there's still so much interpersonal drama to play with that and they could have had a conversation where they respected each other enough to talk about it.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting also if like it wasn't as linked to Cordelia having a weapon in her hand for Lilith to like kind of take power, you know, or if Lilith was constantly sending demons after her to be like, get your weapons up, like I need you to do stuff. So like everyone around her was constantly in a position of being threatened. So like she didn't want to be around James, maybe because she didn't want to constantly put him in danger, or maybe she'd be isolated and have to start using her weapon, you know, and then they would cause drama with her using the weapon on things she didn't want to use the weapon for. Like, well, she was this secret assassin and she wasn't telling anyone because she like felt so terrible about like having murdered people because she had to like pull out her weapon, you know?
Yeah, the whole Paladin thing was underutilized potential.
But yeah, I feel like it was just very clear that she wrote too many books for too long, and she needs a break. Her brain needs a refresh. Because it was just too many characters at once. It's so hard to write like even the arc of 2 characters within the span of like a regular readable length book. So I can't imagine 11.
That's why so many of them had much more minor arcs. Like the Lucy and Jesse arc was relatively small.
It was just the beginning of the book.
Ari and Anna was relatively small. Even Alistair and Thomas, like their things were just like a little bit of like interpersonal like turbulence, but
they were a rom-com running through this book.
Easily solved, I have a question. When they're in Paris, this was something that threw me off. When Matthew called Cordelia Daisy, I thought Daisy was like her nickname from James and Lucy. Like
it was, but I guess like he's around them so much, maybe he just picked it up too. That happened.
That's not allowed.
No, it was weird, like in intimate scenes, if you call her Daisy.
Right.
But like, why would he do that right when he's about to kiss her? When like that's obviously James's name for her, and that's obviously going to make her think of James.
Yeah, I've always hated that name for her.
Right?
Whenever anyone says it, I'm like, ugh. Cordelia is such a regal, strong name, and Daisy is just like this flower you step on. I just like it.
Feels
Just
very like Southern Belle. Like,
yes, and like she's just such a strong female character, and that just like really it shakes the tone of her. You know, like it's not her. It doesn't match her tonally at all. Especially like the way that she's like so stubborn all the time. Like Daisy is not that in my head. I don't know.
Yeah, Cordelia is like a warrior, and like Daisy
Yeah.
is not the name of a warrior.
No.
Daisy is the name of a character like Grace.
Yeah. Yeah. Daisy feels like a much shallower character, and I don't mean that as any offense to the name Daisy. I think I've read a book. Is who Daisy Buchanan is
Daisy.
coming to mind. Who the fuck is that? Is she from The Great Gatsby? And I hated that character.
Daisy Jones in the Six, but
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that at all. Daisy Buchanan was the first Daisy I knew, and I did not like her. Oh yeah, there's like that random Dorothea cameo. Did you guys pick up on that?
I did not.
So the warlock with the fortune teller in Paris with the eyes on the hands is the warlock that lives under their apartment, Clary and her mom in New York City. That has
She has
the
eyes in her hands.
yeah.
The one in New York, I mean.
I don't remember because it's been so long, but it's the same character. It's her.
Oh,
Her Madame Dorothea. She tells the future. She has tarot cards in the future with that's where she hides the cup.
interesting.
Yeah. So fun times, guys. Daisy Jones is shaking. Daisy Jones is such a completely different aura that I like. She's in her own category for me. But I think that's gonna wrap our Chain of Thorns live show. Again, like this is our last book live show, but we are still doing monthly live shows that anyone can join where we're gonna be talking about, we're gonna be playing games, looking back at different Booksplosion moments, like having nostalgia trips, telling stories. It's gonna be fun. And our first one is April 29th, I think, right? Is that what we said? 30th. Damn it. Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific.
Yep.
I'm just reading people's comments. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bunton Cozy Mystery Lover. Like, we see your name all the time, and it's nice, so nice to have you here. It's been a
Thank you to everyone for joining our last book read along.
Yeah, it's been a ride, y'all. And again, like it's weird to be like we're saying goodbye because we're gonna be here for the rest of the year.
It's not the end.
It's not the end, but it is the last book, and it's like that's a big thing
that's
too.
like in the core of what Booksplosion is. Like it's always been about like the book of the month. So it's like weird that that part of it is ending. But
our final book of the month, but live shows to continue through the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get sappy at the end of the year. I don't want to do it now. But thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next at the end of this month. It's April 2nd. Bye, y'all.